I brought Wilks in for a reason. And listen, I want him to run his system. We have 3 games left. All right, 3 games left for our guys to go out there and play. And I will tell you this: it's right now. It's not about the X's and O's.
I'll let you guys know that I relieved Steve Wilks from his duties this morning as our defensive coordinator. This decision that I made late last night, and I talked to him this morning, and I felt like it was the best decision for the organization at this time. And I've said this all along, that I'm evaluating players, I'm evaluating coaches, I'm evaluating myself, and I just felt like this was the best decision for right now for the team and for this organization.
This is Green Blitz with your host, Joe Mauceri.
All right, so maybe it was a little bit about the X's and O's. Aaron Glenn axing Steve Wilks after the Jets get taken to the woodshed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing 48-20 in Week 15. Green falls to 3-11 on the season. And joining us each and every week here on the Green Blitz, NFL reporter for the New York Post, Ryan Dunleavy. Ryan, how surprised were you by the news today?
You know what? Shame on me, Joe. I was a little surprised by it. Like, I still, no matter how many coaches I cover, I still tend to believe them at press conferences. And so that makes me think that it was reactionary. It makes me think that Aaron Glenn maybe caved a little bit to Look, he was going to get fired after the season.
Right.
What the point is to doing it with 3 games left, unless there was some sort of blow up, unless the players went to him and said, we can't do this anymore. It seems kind of reactionary. Like the public was calling for it and he rethought his answer at the podium and then decided, you know what, everybody else is right. It's time. Like, I don't love the timing of it. I agree with the move. I just don't love the timing of it.
Throughout this season, the one thing that we have been saying about Aaron Glenn is how loyal he is. And you talk about that respect in the locker room and that trust in the locker room. Does this taint that in any way? Because he's been saying Steve Wilks is his guy, and now all of a sudden he's out the door.
Maybe with some of the other coaches. I don't think with some of the other players. Like, I think, the players knew it wasn't working. The players knew it was coming. But yeah, I guess maybe if I was a member of the coaching staff, I might be a little bit, on my heels or whatever, on my toes, I guess is the saying. Like, I would feel like, just because he has your back at the podium doesn't mean that that's necessarily his true feelings. Like, yeah, I could see that. But I think in the locker room, I don't think this is going to crush the players. I don't get the sense there are a lot of guys who were going to bat for Steve Wilks.
All right. You said you agree with the move. And you look at the numbers. Jets are 17th in total defense, 26th in scoring defense. They were worst in the league. This was crazy. They're worst in the league in turnover differential, -17. They were 4 clear of the Minnesota Vikings for second place in that category. And then there's like a big drop off. Goes to 9 really quickly after 1 or 2 teams. Go ahead. I'll let you comment on that before.
Forget turnover differential, Joe. Like that's almost like including the offense in this debacle. Like, it's just about takeaways. Like, it's just about, forget how often they give the ball away. If the offense gave it away 5 times, they'd be in negative turnover neutral. They have 3 takeaways. They have 0 interceptions. They're going to be the first team in NFL history to not have an interception for a whole season. Like, to me, that's where it starts and ends. Like, today's defense in the NFL, I talked to enough defensive coaches. Today's defense is about, forcing field goals and getting takeaways and sacks. And, and you're not going to play shutout defense most of the time. You're not going to, it's about don't give up the touchdowns. Don't break in the red zone. Everybody kicks 60-yard field goals now, so you're going to give up points. It's about game-changing plays, and Steve Wilks' defense didn't make nearly enough of those.
All right, so how much you putting that on him and scheme, and how much you putting on the fact that you went and got rid of your 2 best defensive players at the trade deadline in Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner? Not that they had interceptions or turnovers before then.
Yeah, so that's what I would say. Is like, I don't know. Let's use friendly numbers. Let's say 75% on Wilks, 25% on the players, because like you said, it wasn't happening when they had Williams and Sauce before. And heck, Sauce even under Ulbrich and Saleh wasn't a turnover machine. So they definitely do not have enough talent on defense, but there are ways. And I come back to a guy who I think should probably be at the top of Aaron Glenn's list, is when Wink Martindale was the Giants defensive coordinator and they were severely under-talented on that side of the ball. They still led the NFL in takeaways in 2023 with 31. 31. The Jets have 31.
Yeah.
Because he schemed up ways. Now, look, he gave up some big plays because he was so aggressive, but he was going for the takeaway. He was going for the big play, and Wilks was mostly playing bend but don't break.
All right, so yeah,
and they broke
a lot over and over again. 48 points. When you mentioned Wink Martindale's name there, do you think now is the time and place for him? Why is he a good candidate to fill the shoes next season?
I'll give you a bunch of reasons actually why I think so. Because one, he's looking to come back from the NFL. They're going to wipe out that whole Michigan staff after the Sharon Moore situation. Yep. So he's going to be looking to come back to the NFL. Two, Aaron Glenn is a very strong personality, so I don't think he has to worry about what other coaches, particularly offensive coaches, have to worry about, which is Wink Martindale wanting to be the head coach of the defense and becoming a little insecure about that. Aaron Glenn does not strike me as somebody who has an insecure bone in his body. So I think that fits. For a Jets standpoint, I mean, what does the Jets fan clamor for? Rex Ryan? Well, Wink Martindale's like a mini Rex Ryan. They're like best friends. They come from the same, tree of defensive coaching. So I think it makes sense and then the takeaways. I mean, it's one of those things. And what do coaches do? You have a friendly coach. You want a tough coach. You have an offensive coach. You want a defensive coach. You have a coach that created no turnovers. Well, you want the master of creating turnovers.
Yeah. You mentioned the fact that Aaron Glenn doesn't have an insecure bone in his body. And obviously the way things went down with Wink and the Giants, and maybe some subversive techniques trying to get Brian Daboll's job there. Do you think Wink is in a position where he can eat a little humble pie there and maybe isn't as clamoring for the head gig as he was when he was with the Giants?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, I haven't really stayed in touch with him, but I would think that that's probably there's probably some truth to that. He left the Giants. He didn't get an NFL DC job. He had to go to the college ranks. That's probably even though it was Michigan and premier of the premier, probably a little humbling. I think at this point we're going to work for a defensive head coach. It would be, they'd have to work their schematics beliefs out together, but he wouldn't be the face of any kind of organization. Aaron Glenn's going to be the face of any organization he works for. He's a strong personality. They'd have to figure out if it could work together, but I think he fits the profile of somebody. And obviously we know Wink is the personality to handle New York. So I think resume-wise, he checks off a lot of boxes.
All right. You said you weren't happy with the timing of the move on Aaron Glenn's behalf here, but obviously there was more than Wilks responsible for giving up 48 points to the Jaguars yesterday. Here was Glenn post-game talking about the defense other than Steve Wilks.
But these guys all know, the plan and how we go out and operate. So, and I'm not putting all the blame on players either. There's a lot of blame that goes around when you put up that many points on the team. And it's not good. It's not good. Put up, 48 points. Not good.
I think it's interesting. We're hearing that when you're as bad as the Jets have been for as long as they have been bad, everybody's looking for that quick fix solution. And obviously Joe Burrow was a name that came up this week after Burrow was talking about how much he loves playing this game anymore. But you look at the talent that's not on this team. I mean, there's not going to be a quick fix solution to any of this. Where how do the Jets start, I guess, in your eyes, to rebuild? Does it go back to coaching? Do they need to make a move with those draft picks and just try and get some pieces that are ready now? Because we've seen coaches go and draft and then they're not here to coach the guys that they end up drafting.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I mean, look, first of all, you mentioned Joe Burrow. I wasn't going to mention Joe Burrow. That's a quick fix. If Joe Burrow is the Jets quarterback. Yes.
But then they're just Cincinnati. What's the difference? What's the difference if Joe Burrow's here? And actually, they're worse than Cincinnati because they don't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Because they have because they have Garrett Wilson, who's every bit as good as T. Higgins. Is every bit. And they have Breece Hall, and then you're talking about Cincinnati's defense is atrocious. The Jets could, use some of those other picks that they don't trade to improve the defense. Like the Bengals are in a nightmare cap situation. The Jets have a ton of cap space. All of a sudden, you build up a better team. And again, one of the reasons Cincinnati's a nightmare is because they went 4 straight 9-7 seasons or 3 straight 9-7 seasons after going to a Super Bowl. What are we talking about here? I just wrote a story about the Giants and coaching search, and one of the things coaches kept saying to me is like, it's an attractive job because the bar is on the ground. Like you just have to go 9-8. So like the Bengals have 4 wins this year because Burrow missed most of the season and he got injured last year too. But like if Joe Burrow's floor is 9-8, they're going to put him in the Jets Ring of Honor. So like, so what are we talking about here? Like, but short of a miracle and Joe Burrow's frustration with loving the game and how long he wants to play is because they keep losing. You think he wants to come to the Jets and like the team that loses more than anybody? I would be surprised by that. So I think we can rule that out.
Do you think we're going to see? I'm gonna follow up there because it is Joe Burrow and quarterbacks like him don't grow on trees. Do you think we're going to see an Andrew Luck situation where this guy's going to walk away from the game?
I don't know. I would have never thought that before what he said last week.
Yeah.
So. Never would have thought that before what he said last week. So I guess it's possible. I mean, I guess it's possible. It would strike me as odd that he would do that to Jamar Chase, who, they've been together since LSU. It would strike me as odd that he would do that. But, but I guess it's possible. And he's playing in for his home state team and all. It would strike me as odd, but he's a different guy.
He'll just have to retire for a year. Then the Jets will coax him out of retirement. He'll miss the game a little bit. He'll come back, and Jets will be right there groveling at the footsteps of Joe Burrow. All right, we got to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to discuss the quarterback options for the New York Jets a little bit more. We're going to take a look back at what might have been as the Jets faced a quarterback that at one time many thought would end up at MetLife Stadium playing for Gang Green. It's all right here on the Gang Green Blitz when we return. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Welcome back to Gang Green Blitz.
Well, the Jets fell to 3-11 on the season after losing to the Jaguars 48-20. Steve Wilks is out as defensive coordinator, and the Jets have a lot of questions, including what the heck is going to happen at QB moving forward. Ryan Dunleavy, NFL reporter for the New York Post, joins us each and every week here on the Gang Green Blitz. Ryan, Brady Cook made his first start as an NFL quarterback here. What did you make of his performance as he got his first start and wasn't thrust into this one in the middle of it here?
He started on fire, right? The problem for him is back to what we were just talking about with the Jets defense being a disaster. The last 2 weeks, the games have been over by 125, right? I know the Eagles and Raiders game ended at 3:30 and was record, but really the Jets game was over at 120. So they just had to play out their stretch. But no, Brady Cook, I think he started 6 for 6 with a touchdown or something like that. It was is this guy a little Mike White magic? But I mean, what is he? Overall, he goes 22 of 33, which is pretty efficient. A touchdown, but the 3 interceptions is a killer. 52.1 rating. Obviously, you got to take much better care of the ball than that. Across town, Jackson Dart is being lauded for being a rookie who takes care of the ball. Shedeur Sanders, I think, had 3 picks for the Browns yesterday. This is what rookie quarterbacks, this is one of the things. Some guys, who come into the league are turnover machines, and some guys are able to protect the ball. And obviously the coaches like the ones who protect the ball, especially defensive minded coaches like Aaron Glenn. He's not going to be thrilled by 3 interceptions. So look, he's a rookie undrafted quarterback. The bar is pretty much, on the ground for his expectations, but he's got to give his team a better chance than 3 interceptions, even though I know he was trying to be a little bit more aggressive because they were playing from such a big hole.
Yeah, and he knows that too. Here was Cook after he got his first start, asked about it in the locker room post-game, especially those turnovers.
Tape again and see exactly how it panned out. I haven't seen a replay of it, but yeah, just got to protect the ball down there.
How did you feel out there? What's the biggest thing you're going to take out of today? What's the biggest thing you're going to take out of this?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. Obviously, I don't know how many reps I had today, but there's a lot of plays on tape that I'm going to go back and watch. And I don't know if there's any one thing, but I think it's just a combination of banking reps, the good and the bad, learning from them, and then also just building on confidence on the good stuff.
How did you feel out there your first NFL start?
It was a blast. It was fun. It's the game I love, and just honored to take the field as a Jet.
Yeah. Talking to your teammates, they talked about the confidence that you had, the leadership ability in the huddle. Did you feel really confident that you guys were going to be successful today?
Yeah, we did. We felt ready to win this game.
Started playing the game. So, I go back to what I said last week. The guy's a happy guy. He's really enjoying the experience out there. But you said it. They weren't in a position early on to win this game. And you look at the other side where the Jacksonville Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence, who accounts for 6 touchdowns in this game. And you think about what might have been, Ryan. There was a time when many Jets fans thought Trevor Lawrence was going to end up as the savior of this franchise. And then down the stretch, the Jets win a meaningless game. They end up with Zach Wilson, and, the rest of the story is written, I guess. When you look at that, what stood out to you about Trevor Lawrence in this one? Did the Jets miss their franchise quarterback all those, a few years ago when they ended up, I think it was the Rams, right? They ended up beating in that game?
Where he beat the Rams and the Browns back-to-back, and knocked out, let's say, somebody I know from a survivor pool with one of those victories. Look, no, I mean, I get it, right? It's sexy to say like, oh, Trevor Lawrence is going to haunt the Jets forever, and like they missed their franchise quarterback, and what could have been. Like, let's call this what it is. We're 5 years into Trevor Lawrence's quarterback. He had the best game of his career. Maybe we'll look back in 5 years and say this was the launching point. I'm not ready to do that right now. This was a great game for a good quarterback against a bad team. He's not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He has not fulfilled his potential in any way. As like it was supposed to be a top 5 in the NFL, Joe. It's supposed to be Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Trevor Lawrence. And like, he is not that 5th guy. I don't know. It's probably Matthew Stafford right now is the 5th guy, but it certainly isn't Trevor Lawrence. He's not even a top 10 guy in most people's expectations. So like, yeah, he would be better than Zach Wilson or whatever they're Justin Fields or whatever they're trotting out now. He's not winning a Super Bowl.
So here's my question. So first of all, I thought the game for Trevor Lawrence was going to be when they came back against the Chargers in the playoffs, and I was like, Jacksonville is set up because that division is a weak division. They have their quarterback, right? There were some pieces and the defense was solid. But their coaching situation has been one of the worst in the NFL, right there with the Jets, you could argue, over the past few years. And if Trevor Lawrence was here, would he even be what he is? Would he have just been ruined by the Jets organization and the lack of talent around him? And would he have excelled somewhere else on his second contract, much like Sam Darnold, right, when he got out of the Jets?
Yes. So. That's what's great about sports, the barstool debate, right? Like, would Phillip Rivers have been a 2-time Super Bowl MVP if he was here instead of Eli Manning? And would Eli Manning have won a Super Bowl in San Diego? Like, you never know. I always tend to go towards the player and the talent in that. And like Trevor Lawrence is good. He's just not great. He's not what everybody thought. He's not transformational, what everybody thought he was going to be. There's questions about how much he really loves football. He'd be better than what the Jets have. Yes. I mean, even with the coaching changes and even with the subpar team around him, like he might not be as good as he is on Jacksonville, but he would be better than what the Jets have had since they didn't get Trevor Lawrence.
All right. So history tends to repeat itself. The Jets have 3 games left here. They're 3-11. you look at the quarterback class. I heard somebody the other day say this quarterback class is actually stronger, they think, than last year's quarterback class. I don't know if that's revisionist history at this point, because I felt like we were talking up the quarterbacks a little bit. But you're always going to because of the position. So the Jets have these 3 games down the stretch here. How do you think the Jets should handle this moving forward when you look at the fact that they clearly need a quarterback? They have the draft capital that they have, because they have to start turning their attention. Aaron Glenn can talk about all he wants about setting the culture and the attitude in the locker room and this and that. He's going to be here next year. You got to start figuring out what direction you're going to move in.
Yeah, I mean, what they should do is try to win as many games as possible, starting with this week against the Saints, who actually I think are the best of the 4 or less win teams in the NFL. I think that they actually are doing what you want to see, like the Raiders or the Giants or all these teams, that the Browns, who think they have a young quarterback and want to build momentum. The Saints are actually doing that. They've won 2 in a row. You want to win the games if you're the Jets, and you want the Giants to suck so bad that they get the first pick, that you can make a crosstown trade and trade the 6th pick for the first pick or whatever. You don't want the Raiders to win the game against the Giants in 2 weeks, because then the Raiders will have the number 1 pick and they're not going to trade out of the quarterback. They're going to take the quarterback. So you want to win. You have no chance. The Jets have, like, I think it's a 1% or less chance to get the number 1 pick. So you might as well just win games 5, 7, whatever, and hope that a team like the Giants or even the Titans, who have Cam Ward, gets the number 1 pick and you can make a trade with them.
And you said you don't want the Raiders to win. You do want the Raiders to win and beat the Giants so that the Giants get that number 1 pick.
Correct. No, you don't want the Raiders to win the number 1 draft pick sweepstakes.
So let's talk about that, because I think that is very interesting, considering these 2 teams are both from New York. They share a stadium. The reality of the realistic possibility of the Giants and Jets making a trade for the number 1 overall pick, which could be the franchise quarterback. And I know you talked about it, and I think this affects both teams. You wrote about the possibility of maybe the Giants trading Jackson Dart and moving on and going and getting Fernando Mendoza. I mean, what's the realistic scenario that can play out for these 2 teams?
Well, there's a 0% chance that the Giants would trade Jackson Dart.
Okay.
Like there's a 0% chance of that.
Yeah.
Now there's people around the league who would tell you that, like, you know, taking feelings out of the equation, that's what they should do. That he's injured too often and too many concussion checks. His style's not sustainable. His, you get an extra year on a rookie contract if you start over. Possibly a new GM would want his own guy. It's not going to happen for the Giants. Like, they're all invested in Jackson Dart. The fans are invested in Jackson Dart. He's the one thing they have going for him. They're not trading Jackson Dart. 0% chance. Is there a chance that they would trade the number 1 pick to the Jets? I think there is. I think the Giants see it as a chance to have their Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff trade, where you load up on draft picks, and if you hit them all, then all of a sudden you've got a nice core. So I do think there's a chance they would trade the number 1 pick. I don't think that they would be so petty as to, now, if it was the shoe was the other foot, maybe, but I don't think the Giants would be so petty as to say, like, we can't hand the Jets their franchise quarterback, especially while they feel like they have theirs in Jackson Dart. I think the Giants would be willing to make a trade with the Jets.
All right. That could be the best scenario for Gang Green as the search for a quarterback continues for the Jets. It feels like it's been going on pretty much since, I mean, who's the last one you're going to go with out there? Is it Chad Pennington? I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, that the last time you felt solid about a Jets quarterback.
Probably Chad Pennington.
Yeah.
Mark Sanchez. No, Mark Sanchez. I felt when he was, yes, Mark Sanchez. When he led the team, when he was, even though the defense was the orchestrator, Sanchez played pretty well in the playoffs, and, like, he had some moments for a young quarterback. Again, we're talking about Jackson Dart like he's there. Right. Mark Sanchez was leading teams to AFC championships. Like, yes, eventually Mark Sanchez was not the guy, but his first and second year, you thought he was. Mark Sanchez is the answer.
All right. The Jets are looking for their next Mark Sanchez. Will they get it in this NFL draft? We're going to find out, but that's why we tune in each and every week. Ryan Dunleavy, NFL reporter for the New York Post. Thank you so much, as always. Thank you to everybody watching at home. We will talk to you and guide you through the final 3 weeks of the NFL season for the New York Jets as the longest playoff drought in the professional American sports continues. Tune in next week.